Welcome, everybody. Today we have a conversation with Gaelle Chapon, who is a local ICF trained life coach. Today's conversation will revolve around discussing topics related to mental fitness, positive psychology, and other aspects of her particular service, her take on coaching. We do get into the root good of what coaching is and does, but mostly it'll revolve around understanding what it is that she actually does. Ultimately, we conclude with say it by not saying it. For the most part, people don't really need to know what it is that we're doing or how it's done. Rather, we really need to know how it impacts us. For example, when you're looking for a plumber, you don't really care to know exactly the methodology he's going to be using in order to fix your leaky faucet. You just need to know that he's going to be able to figure out what the problem is and fix the leaky faucet. Maybe it's to do with the faucet. Maybe it has to do with the plumbing below it. Doesn't matter. He's going to be able to know what needs to happen in order to diagnose and fix the issue. From a design standpoint, her site is actually already pretty good. I do have a couple notes, and we can get into that right now. We actually have a pretty good design. We've got a greenery in the background, good clear image. Hi, I'm Gaelle, your well-being and mental fitness coach. So if you're looking for well-being and you're looking for mental fitness, this is going to, what is that going to say to the person who needs it? They probably feel mental fitness. I feel like I need to be more fit mentally, and that actually is pretty good verbiage, very intuitive. I will say that we need a little bit of background, maybe a blurred text drop shadow that could help pull the text off of the background a little bit so that it's more readable, and we have that repeating below here. Especially here we've got text in the background image. We need a little bit of separation, maybe a different image. Put the image, the text of the background elsewhere, maybe, and then we see it again right here. But this is really not bad at all. We've got the background. This is much more readable. The other note I'll say is that we've got images abutting other images. I'll switch to desktop. Here we go. We have images abutting other images. I would like to see some separation, like 1 or 2 line heights, 20, 30, 40 pixels, whatever will put a little separation and kind of frame the images a little bit better, since they abut each other. That pretty much concludes my design notes. She is doing pretty well, but I will go to the primary offer page, the coaching page, and I'll offer another criticism here. I think we need to simplify this. We have too many options. The most important and biggest hurdle to overcome as professional services, especially personal professional services, is getting the conversation started. So a conversation starter here is probably the better way to go than a list of services that you could partake in. So up here, the thing that you want to do first, the thing that we want our ideal client to do first, somebody who is needing mental fitness, needing to overcome high functioning anxiety. What is it that will attract them to say, oh, that's something I can do? Start the conversation. And with that, I'd like to thank Gaelle for our conversation. We had a great time, and I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as we did. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, and then we can dive right into you, into your business, your coaching practice, and we can talk about that.
Okay, so I'm Gaelle. I'm a French-American well-being and mental fitness coach. The focus of my practice is supporting professionals dealing with high-functioning anxiety. a condition I know well because I've been struggling with it most of my adult life, and I found my way out of it. And now it's my mission, my purpose, my passion to help others also break this cycle of high functioning anxiety. So I support people on their pathway, take them where they are, and help them through mental fitness practice, positive intelligence, taking better care of themselves to find their path through more joy, peace, purpose in their life.
Very good. So tell me about the person you help and what it is that that they find they gain through your service.
So the people I work with usually are professional, like achieving and usually successful professionals that from the outside look like almost everything is perfect in a perfect world. But actually having an experience of a lot of high level of stress, chronic stress, level of anxiety, self-doubt, dealing with a lot of perfectionism, like constant worry. And so they have success and they have results, but it comes from a place where there is actually a lot of pain from them. So usually we meet at a point where they are ready to move forward. They realize they deserve a better experience of their life. And together we identify the roots of what is creating. That's important to me, like not to just, bring some patch in, so that it's really getting to the roots of it so they can really adopt new mindsets, new lifestyle, new habits that's going to help them to really create a life that is a life they love and a life where they can experience joy again and a sense of accomplishment and let go of this anxiety.
Yeah. So you help them kind of take a step back to figure out what it is they are in the anxiety, and you to take a step back to see what it is that's causing it, and even that alone can be maybe not enough, but just taking a little pause and observing can be therapeutic, and be so you can make some changes even like right away.
Yes. Yeah. Just the self-awareness. The self-awareness is always like the first step. And then I bring tools, and there are two tools that always come up, and it's mindfulness and self-compassion.
Mindfulness and self-compassion. Yeah. Talk to me about that. How would you define mindfulness?
So mindfulness is our ability to be present in the moment in a non-judgmental way, to really be there, present in the moment. And in our life, we spend a lot of time actually either concerned about what happened in the past or worrying about what may happen in the future. And it's pretty rare that we are here in the moment, and that's where joy and happiness are, is like when we can really enjoy the moment. So I bring more of awareness to that. And of course, I use a lot of, I teach and I help my clients find, what are the tools that are working for them. There are a lot of different tools to help them ground themselves in the present. It has a very positive effect on your nervous system and, activating this parasympathetic nervous system. So it's helping to get tools that help you go back to the present. And gratitude is a way also to go back to that. Noticing what brings joy. A lot of, like, really bringing back this attention to what is now, and what we have control over usually is now. The past is the past, and the future has not happened. And we all understand that it's a simple, but in our life, actually, it's not that easy to put it in practice. So we work on that.
Yeah. There, my mind immediately went to Stoicism, and there are some parallels. It's not completely the same, but there's some parallels with Stoicism. You take a dispassionate look at current. Like what is the present, and you can accept it and as reality, and I think that's a key step to actually making changes. If you can admit what is, then you can have a real plan for changes for what can be, And until you can acknowledge what current reality is, until then you don't have any control.
Totally. And there is a quote from Carl Rogers, who's one of the father of positive psychology, and instead says that it's when I accept who I am that I can start changing.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one as well. It's not just external, but internal realities. The reality of who looks back when we look into a mirror. It's like, is that person right there? You have to acknowledge who that person is before you can make any changes to him.
Yeah, we spend a lot of energy fighting ourselves, actually, instead of fighting for ourselves.
Oh, that's a good one. That's fighting ourselves instead of fighting for ourselves. Yeah. I think we often know our faults, not in an abstracted sense, but rather an experiential sense. You get frustrated at the same mistakes that you do all the time, and it feels like fighting yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot can be said about that also. It's that because we are upset at ourselves and the mistakes we make, it makes it difficult for us to learn from it. Because we don't want to go back to a painful experience. If we were able to look at it with more self-compassion, and when self-compassion gets in, is like, and just acknowledging a mistake, it's part of our process to grow. It's our learning process.
Yeah.
We can actually look at it without the pain and the frustration, and just be able to look at it for what it is, and the same, like, get a lesson out of it. So we think sometimes that being harsh with ourselves is the best way to move us forward. Science is actually now even showing us through the neuroscience, that studies that are made, that actually self-compassion may be the best tool to get more out of yourself, but in a kind and compassionate way.
Yeah, there's a phrase that comes to mind from Dr. Jordan Peterson, who says, in one of his 12 rules for life, treat yourself as if you were put in charge of your care. So like, if you're somebody else, we take care of other people more than we take care of ourselves. We have more compassion for other people. Typically, I would say 90+% of us take more care of the people around us than we take care of ourselves, psychologically, physically, very likely spiritually and emotionally as well.
Yeah, that's totally true. And when we find the balance, between taking care of ourselves and taking care of others, we realize that when we take care of ourselves, we take even better care of people around us, because we have more to give, because our cup is full, instead of being like lower and lower. But all of that is like, it's a work in progress, and work I do with my clients to move them towards that.
Yeah. So even from the perspective of a feigned selflessness, it's actually important to have compassion on ourselves, so that if the only motivation is so that you're better for other people.
It can be a motivation, and at the same time you get a better experience for yourself too. So it's a win-win situation for everybody.
It is. I find the best solutions are win-win solutions. Yeah. So talk to me about this person who needs what you have, needs that the time to slow down, the tools that you offer to think and to make good judgment and assessment of their current condition, make changes and stick with them.
So unfortunately, the people who need the more my help are usually on the path to burnout, because the consequence of letting anxiety, what I call high functioning anxiety, because you live in a state of chronic stress, but you are still functioning at sometime at a high level, like you are productive, you're meeting your deadlines, you're working long hours. Is that, like, as you keep doing that over and over time, you drain yourself out of your energy. And so there is this, if you don't stop in time, there is always this risk to be led to burnout. So some of my clients are, some things that is like, triggering them, like to to stop before they realize that they are heading in a direction that is not the one they want to go to. For other people, I have clients who have had 2 or 3 burnouts, and because they don't get to the roots of it, they just get back, and they get back in the same way of functioning. Because pills don't help you to deal with that. It's a much deeper change that is needed.
Yeah.
And rest is helping, of course, in it, but it's because the same action will lead to the same consequences. So I help them really getting to these roots and changing the mindset and looking at things differently. And it's also a lifestyle, like it's like embracing new ways of living. I would be healthier.
Yeah, the same actions and habits lead to the same outcomes.
And we are creatures of habits, so the brain is a less lazy part of us. Like he wants to, it requires less energy to go on the path, even if this path is leading to suffering and pain. If it's the usual path, it's less energy than trying something new. So there is a natural, friction when we try to change something. Like there is a resistance to it.
Yeah, there's the brain is really, really good at doing one thing, and that is to stop thinking, and it tries to find the shortest path to that all the time, and that's really good in some senses, because that helps us find really efficient patterns. But sometimes those patterns we find, although they seem efficient, are not so. They seem like they save energy. They seem like they produce an outcome that we are intending, but they end up hiding. Some consequence is hiding, and the consequence that we're talking about here is burnout. What does burnout look like in the people that you work with?
The point is like getting to this point where you drain yourself out of your energy, and there is a lot of different impacts, but it's usually they are physical symptoms also, depending on the people. Like it can be digestive issues, it can be heart issues, high blood pressure. So it has a toll. It takes a toll on the body, and different people will have different way of responding to that. So there is that. Sleeplessness is part of it. Like people usually have a very difficult sleep, and it comes to the point where actually your motivation to do anything goes, like you are just like you are burned out in this way, like even the simplest thing, you don't want to do it anymore. So you get to this point where you need to stop. Like everything has to stop to be able to recharge.
Yes.
And that's where you don't want to go. And you become often a bit cynical also about people around you. It has a direct impact on your relationship. Usually it's not helping. It's not going in the right direction, because your tolerance to anything is getting lower and lower. Because you are working on like the it's like if you a car, like when your battery is out, the battery is out, the car is not, you don't expect it to work, or if you are out of gas, you're out of gas. Human beings, we actually keep going, thinking that even if there is nothing left, we will still be able to do it. But there is one point when things don't work anymore. It's pretty dangerous, because it's long after that to get back on track, because you really drain yourself out.
It's a slow death. So we like car batteries and gas tanks, when they're out, they're out. It's discrete. It happens right away. It's either got sufficient or it doesn't, and it's very Boolean and discrete when it comes to like most of the things that we work with, our cell phones. It reaches zero, it shuts itself down. We don't have that. We don't have a discrete threshold that happens. It's much more gradual. And in some ways that makes it a lot harder to detect. And it's only it's only when you're in the throes of burnout that you realize, I've been running on fumes this whole time, to repeat the analogy of the car.
But we can learn actually to be, because one of the characteristic of our time is like we live really much in our mind, and so a lot of us are disconnected from our bodies. Because if you are more connected to your body, there are really a lot of signs that we need more rest. That we need, that we are like, just people stay stuck in stress, like in a way, like they're in a sympathetic mode most of the time, when we should only be there when needed, because we need, of course, stress is needed to be in action, but we should not stay there. It's not a state that we are supposed to stay in. And people just get chronically stressed, and so everything is wearing out inside. And there are signs. I've seen so many people, including myself, having all these signs, just we don't want to listen. We are not listening.
Yeah.
And that's something we can learn also, to be more connected and actually listening, and not considering that it's optional, but it's actually, we need to do something about it. Like, it's not like, oh, if I have time, I will take care of myself, because that's the last thing we take care of, usually, if we think about it this way.
Yeah. If I have time, I'll take care of myself. That's like, if I have time, I'll stop for gas. But you're on a cross country road trip. Like, what are you doing? That's not a smart idea. You're not going to get to your destination. So to riff off of that analogy, what is the destination that people are going to, and they get distracted from, filling up their tank, and they break down on the side of the road, right? They have the burnout. What's typically that goal that they are pursuing?
We have different way of what I call self-sabotaging ourselves. So different people can have different motivation or motives inside that actually are going to take us. It's not the same for everybody. It's like some people, for example, are high achiever, what is, all these things are qualities that we can have, achieving, and not saying that achieving is not good, but when you only focus on that and nothing else matters, this need to achieve and to meet your goals is going to lead you to let everything else aside, like your health, your friendships, your family, of course, it's a bit caricatural what I'm saying. So that can be one of the root causes, like you have to rethink your relationship. Why is that so important to you to achieve stuff? Because do you associate your value, to your accomplishments? And maybe your value is who you are, not in what you do. So it's just like, we have to break down some things. But for some other people, it's going to be more like, for example, we take better care of other people than ourselves. Other people have such a need to please that they're going to put everybody else needs before theirs. And by doing that, they actually lead themselves also on the path to burnout. For some people, it's perfectionism. Like, they need everything to be perfect, and to get that perfect, they're going to spend so much energy to try to get to this impossible goal of perfection. Because what is perfection? But so, and it's, so what we are working on is redefining perfection, actually. Because people, we rarely question our view on perfection when I used to be a perfectionist, so I know it. When you start thinking about it, you can actually pretty easily question what perfection is. So, but it can be that, it can be for some people, it's hypervigilance, like they are so worried about any negative outcomes that could happen that they spend their time in a stress mode that is planning for worst case scenarios that usually never happen, but they are constantly there in ruminations about. And so it's taking also it's just like all of that is putting your attention, your time, your energy on something that is not fulfilling to you. And and you get, you are the one who is like, it's all happening at your own expense. Your well-being, your relationship, your health, and even, your fulfillment in general with your life. So
Yeah, I'm reminded of the saboteurs exercise that you share, and perfectionism being one of them. That was, I think, my number one whenever I took the quiz. What is it called again?
It's called the saboteur assessment. It comes from the positive intelligence. It's a framework, for mental fitness. I'm trained in positive intelligence, and it comes directly from their website.
Yeah. Okay.
And I use it with my clients. So as part of a program, I train people on, but also as part of my coaching, my one-on-one coaching.
Yeah. The saboteur, the perfectionism saboteur is my number one, and it makes a lot of sense as well, because I'm always thinking about what would make it better, and then and I have to check myself very frequently, and sometimes I forget to check myself when I'm on a task whether or not I've met my original goal. And there's also the element of feature creep. So whenever I'm building something, I think, oh, this needs that, so I have to start that before I'm done with this. And then the project, which was supposed to take 3 days, is now taking 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful quality. I want to say that first, like all these saboteurs to start with, it's a beautiful quality. Not everybody is able to take something to this higher level of quality, detail. So it's a very interesting quality when you apply it for something where it's meaningful, like it makes sense to apply it. So that's one of the things I work with my client, is recognizing, like taking a step back on anything they're involved in to think how important it is and what is the best use of my time in this. Like, is it maybe this thing really needs to get to this level where I can bring it perfect, but maybe actually perfection in this area is just like spending 1 hour, because what is at stake is not very important. It's really important to have this like when we know ourselves, we can take this step back because we know where we could laterally just like go. And it's just like when we spend time doing something, there is something else we are not doing. And it's just a choice. Me, I never judge anything. Everybody can choose, to use their time the way they want. It's just important to be aware of what is not happening while you do that.
Right.
That it would be more important. And
I think the saboteurs exercise has a really strong parallel in the virtues and vices. So one of the virtues is courage. Well, courage lies between cowardice and recklessness, right? It kind of looks like recklessness, going out and facing the thing that's dangerous, and courage does it despite of danger. But recklessness does it not in spite of danger, but disregarding danger. In the same way, perfectionism as a vice is somewhat like the having a standard of professionalism, or having a high goal in mind, optimizing. How about that? Optimizing is the virtue, and perfectionism is the vice, it looks like. But the opposite side of it is it's good enough. So I don't like it's good enough. It's good enough feels bad. And perfectionism also feels bad, but it feels bad eventually. Whereas the virtue between those two vices would be optimizing. Or if the virtue, if you will, of efficiency lies between a vice of hyper productivity and laziness. So it doesn't look like laziness. Well, in some senses it might, because you try to stop working, but it's not because you want to expend less energy. It's rather that you want to achieve more without expending too much energy. So it's between those two. Laziness causes is the motivation to spend less energy, and productivity is the motivation to increase your output. And taken to the extreme, both of them are bad. Both of them are the vices. But in between, there's this virtue, if you will, of efficiency. And I think a lot of the saboteurs in the exercise are like the vices that can bracket a virtue. What are your thoughts on that?
And as I say, they are all strengths to start with. It's just when we overuse them, like it's like if you have a quality but you rely only on this quality, it's not going to lead you in a good direction, because this quality has a value in some context, but not in all context. And so when we start leading just with a couple, of our qualities, and we let them like lead us, usually take us too far in one direction. So it's really a work of bringing more awareness. And I think a lot of my work, I feel, is about helping people to be more intentional. So it's getting back in control and making a choice now. It's like most of the time these behaviors, they are automatic. We have no control of them. We develop them for some reasons, and then they just stay with us. Maybe they served us in the past as kids. We were in certain contexts where we felt it was serving us, and we don't question them anymore. But the problem is now, as adults, it's leading us on paths that are not aligning actually what would make us the most fulfilled and aligned, what is really meaningful and purposeful to us. So it's really like, this intentionality, getting back in control, and being, I really believe that knowledge is power. So when we know ourselves better, now we have a choice. At least we can make a decision.
Yeah. I like that. So it's putting your conscious self back in the driver's seat of your daily life, not on just the big decisions. So we often think a lot about some of the big decisions that we make in our lives, but we don't give very much thought about the daily decisions that lead up to that compound to what really creates our lives. So we might spend a lot of time planning this big activity that we're looking to do, but the habits that we form that really make up what our lives are, we don't put very much effort into those.
Because the brain also is like to put us back. Like, we cannot question everything and be thinking about everything all the time. We would like be exhausted at the end of the day. So the work I'm trying to do with my client is, at least for a certain time, bringing more awareness so we can actually create new habits. And create habits that now align with the path we want to be on, the person we want to be, the type of life. And so there is this moment where it's going to require a bit more energy to create this habit. But then the idea is like to set ourselves back on success, so we don't have all the time to, it becomes our new behavior, our new way to show up. And it's a way that is healthier for us, that is better for our well-being in general, and so it's really recreating. It's like rewiring the brain in a new direction that is serving us better now in our life. And then we can go back on autopilot on some stuff and think about others, because we create this healthier. It's like, it's also a lifestyle. It's like what you eat, or you sleep, the time you or exercise, how much exercise you put. All of that is part of it, actually, as like creating like things that are our way of living.
So to bring up the thing that we were talking about earlier, the brain's really good at stopping to think. Other way around, the brain is really good about thinking as little as possible. it finds shortcuts, and sometimes those shortcuts need to be revised, and that is what we're doing here. We are rewiring. We find the ruts that we find ourselves stuck in, and we carve a new rut, right? We fill in the old one so it's nice and level, and then, all right, so now where do we want to go? We build new habits, we build new lifestyle in a way that will serve us rather than harm us.
And so sometimes we have to get to what are these beliefs? There are beliefs that are sustaining, our behavior, that, we don't question because they've been there for a long time. And one of them, for example, could be as simple as self-care is selfish. That's a belief that you can have. People can have this belief. If you have this belief, there are very little chances you will ever take care of yourself in a joyous and loving way. Like, you're gonna do it if you have no other choice, that you will never do it with, love towards yourself.
One of the unfortunate habits of mine is I will sometimes put off things that I think would be fun, but I end up taking the time anyway in doing something that's just distracting, not something that's soul filling. And I think that's really, really common in at least my generation, and the generation younger than me, is instead of doing things that are going to fill our souls, we just waste our time. And if we did anything else, if we put down the phone and went for a walk, we would be so much better off. But it's sometimes really, really hard to make that. I mean, it's somewhat of a little change, but it's also a really big change, because our phones are calling for our attention continuously. I think that's probably one of the biggest struggles that my generation is going to have to face, is what do we do with our lives on a daily basis? Is it staring at a shiny colorful rectangle, or is it interacting with each other and being really human?
And I mean, to make everybody feels good about it, like all the social media, everything, everything on this phone has been designed to make us addicted to it. So
yes,
it's been designed this way, it's been thought through this way, so it's normal that we have, it just, we're gonna have to learn to use it. Now it's the same. How do we use that? Because it's not all bad and negative. It's like, how do we make it something that serves us, and not being the slave of it, but being the master of our phone. But it's been designed to create this type of, it's all based on getting your dopamine up, and all this fear of missing out. And there is always, it's like, it's almost, it's, I mean, and it's, I'm older than you, but even me, who got this, later in my life, I can feel the same level of addiction. I have to, pay attention so it doesn't just get all my attention. Because it's it's easy to get sucked in. Like, you're there for 5 minutes to check something, and suddenly it's been 30 minutes, 1 hour, and where did time go? We don't know.
Yes.
And yeah, some of it is useful. Yeah, you get some information, there is some connection, but a lot of it is really mindless. Like it just like
it's calling for your attention, but it's not serving you. Most other things before cell phones, when they called for your attention, they actually paying that attention was actually going to pay off. So we don't have a built-in mechanism to filter out things. I mean, we do have some filter, and it's mostly, I don't know. There are some filters that are in our minds. We don't consciously see everything our eyes see. We don't consciously hear everything that rattles our eardrums. So there is some filter, but I don't think we are naturally equipped for this sort of a distraction. So we have to use our minds and be very, very intentional how we allow the technologies into our lives. Now that's just like that is one really big, but simply one thing that could impact our lives from a mental well-being and point of view. What are some of the other things that you find your clients struggle through and overcome?
So there is, I mean, so I work with a lot of professionals, as I told you, like and so it's finding also the work-life balance things is a bit overused, but still, we get the concept here, and it's finding these boundaries between work and life. Particularly, not a lot of my clients, they work from home, so it's even like more confusing than it was before because you're in the same physical space. So creating these boundaries becomes, and I have some of my clients who have extended their working hours in ways that are not sustainable over time. So it's also being able to recognize that we are more efficient sometimes working, you work 1 hour, you take a break, you work again, and you limit, your hours. When we put these boundaries, we realize that the brain is actually much more efficient in producing what we need to produce in this time. Like there is this, I don't remember, there is a rule about that. Like that, I don't remember the name of it, but we feel actually with time. So if you give yourself extended time, you will feel it. With more things to do, is it really what you should be doing? Are there your priorities?
Yes.
One of my big things, like the concept we talked a lot about, is like, what is important? What is the most important? What really requires, where are you really adding value? And where should you put your time and energy that really creates value? And what can be let go of? Because, we have choices to make. So, and as I say, I never judge, like we are all in charge of our lives, but it's about doing it mindfully, like knowing what we are doing. Because when we put our attention there is something else we are not putting our attention onto. That can be okay, or maybe it's not okay at all. And what I realize is a lot of people, they are torn apart inside because actually the way they are acting in their life is not in alignment with their values. So they feel like this, like it's very harsh actually when it's an internal pain. Like you are doing something because you feel you have no other choice, but this path you are on is actually not in alignment with what is really important to you. And this over time also creates a lot of internal pain.
Yeah. So the stated values and the lived values are misaligned. They aren't. There's an uncoordinated sort of like if you see like a little kid trying to walk, and there's this one value of I want to be on that side of the room, and there's the lived value of put one foot in front of the other, and they can't figure it out. That's how we are in our lives. Like we don't know how the way that we live day to day isn't in alignment with I want to be on that side.
And some people are aligned, like it's not like we all, but some of us like take pass for a lot of different reasons. Like, it's the voice of society expectations, your family expectation, the culture you are in, also creates some kind of expectation, and we feel, we are going this way because it looks like it's the way to go, but actually it's not. aligned. For some people, it will be okay, but for other people, it's actually it's not their own inner voice. It's not their wiser, authentic. You call it as you are, your true self, your whatever, your soul. Like it's not aligning with that, and so it's like you're really hurting yourself in the process. And that's another thing I think. Sometimes when our saboteurs lead too much, it's also leading us in a path that is leading us away from our own true path.
Yeah. So let's take a little bit of a step back to kind of across this conversation, figure out what it is that is the core message of what you are offering to your clientele. So we have avoid and recover from burnout. That's like maybe one pillar. We also have to understand how to work with your personality, to not only achieve your goals but enjoy the process of doing so. What else would you put on that list?
It's just like I define it pretty simply, saying like what I want to do is really support people to the people I work with in creating a life they love. Like, a life that is aligned with their true self, a life where they find joy, peace, purpose. That's my three big words: joy, peace, and purpose. That would be the pillars. And to do that, most of us need to step back and to take some time to reflect. And it takes then sometimes big changes to be made, and it's like getting the support you need so you can realign yourself and go on this path, because it's worth it. I know, because I was personally on the path that was not aligning with my true self and the things that I really value, and when I found inside myself this strength to go on my path, and instead of burning all this energy fighting to be good at something I had no interest into, but now doing something I love doing, like the experience of life is like so different. And it shines all over, like, for the people around you. So I've experienced it, so that's why I know the strength it takes and the energy people put into keeping going on the path that is not theirs. Like it, and I always tell them, you are so resilient, you have no clue how courageous you are. I know. And if you put this energy in a path that is aligning with you, you are unstoppable.
Yeah. How would you say your clients express the desire for the results of your service? So we were talking avoid and recover from burnout, enjoying the process of achieving goals, living a life aligned with their true self and their values. If these are kind of coachees, it's our own coach language. How do your clients express the desires?
No, it's actually really, I think we all want that. It's like the real desire is to live a life, to have an experience of your own life that is satisfying, like where you experience happiness and where you feel, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of they express it this way, like the people want to have a life they enjoy living, not feeling like it's a burden or it's it's so simple, like I think all of us, it's kind of but it's at the same time it's difficult because we are put on, there are so many, we live in a world and there are a lot of things happening around us. Is like, how can we recenter on ourselves and still be contributing to the world in a meaningful way? It's not about giving up or being selfish, or because it's certainly not about that. Nobody finds satisfaction in life without contributing in some regard, to the world around us.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, an internal a fulfillment of our persons internally necessarily means to go externally. There is definitely a need. I think especially with men, I think have more of a need for production, but women, I think there's a more relational desire with women, but there's a large overlap as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's, each of us, it's finding that, actually recognizing what it is that makes you feel purposeful, that makes you feel happy, that brings you joy, and trying to bring more of that in your life.
Yes. So let's think about some of the ways that you've expressed this to your potential clientele, and see if there is room for improvement.
Oh, there is certainly room for improvement. I mean, I can talk hours about what I do. Written communication about it is another thing. It's like, oh,
Yes.
my main concern has always been to pass an idea in a simple, direct way. Like there is so many things I want to share that it's hard for me to make it short. I think it's my to get to this point. And
yes, I believe it was Mark Twain. He wrote a letter. I don't know what the context was, but he when he summed up the letter, he's like, "I would have written you a shorter letter, but I had not the time," and that is so true. It takes a lot of effort to write something short. It takes very little effort to write something very long, and the whole process of writing something short is to write a lot and then to figure out what it is that was the essence of what you said. I guess I can dive into some of the notes that I have. So avoid and recover from burnout is definitely one of the key elements. Burnout is your clientele are either in the throes of or on their way to burnout when they encounter you. So they may not know that's where they are. So what they may say is their desire is to, catch a break. Maybe that might be a phrase that they could use. Like, here is the break you want to catch, or something like that. And to avoiding the stress is probably not what they want either, because they are professional. They see getting through the thing as the solution to the thing, not getting around the thing, whatever the thing is that's causing them stress. So there is some desire to overcome, not avoid. Overcome. What are they overcoming? They are overcoming stress, burnout, bad habits. Maybe they may see the bad habits as part of the stress. It really depends on how self-aware they are. Your clientele. What are the thoughts that you have so far?
It's like the wording I've been using so far when I talk about that. It's like, so I focus on the concept of it's high functioning anxiety, because that's what I thought was like the shortest way to talk about all what these people are experiencing. Also, the word is still like in development. Like I don't know if everybody is familiar with, high functioning anxiety. I think people are going to be more and more aware about it,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because of the pace of change and the uncertainty we live in. It's like all our world is actually leading us in this direction of high functioning anxiety, because we are facing, a pace. The change is like so fast and everything is so uncertain. Like our brain was not designed to deal with that. So if we don't teach our brain ways to deal with the new era we are in, we're just gonna crash, because it's just like not what we are supposed to be evolving into. Like it's evolving much faster than us. And so unfortunately it's leading to all this chronic stress, and that's what I'm trying. So I'm talking about breaking the cycle of high functioning anxiety, like finding a way where you start like making a change leading to another change, and it's like, and not stay stuck in. It's a vicious circle, like people are stuck in, and because they see usually we don't see a way out. Like it's like, but I have to do that. Like we don't see how we're gonna break this cycle. So it's like finding a way to break the cycle, and so you can start something new.
Yeah, break the cycle of burnout, overcome anxiety.
And so interestingly enough, I never mentioned burnout in my on my website, just when I talk about myself, because I've been through a couple burnout myself. So that's the only time I talk about it.
Something else that I know that coaching does is it helps us know what our real values are.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes we don't know what we value.
Mm-hmm.
And before you can get what you want, you need to know what that is. So if you could have what you want, what would that be? Mm-hmm. and that would be such a profound question for so many people. If you could have what you want, what would that be? And really, it's not no worries. People don't actually want no worries. They want something to live for. So that's actually not the correct answer. It's something else. It's some optimal place between settled and adventure. Mm-hmm. There's people, and I think maybe because of the kind of clientele that you want to attract and are attracted to you, those kinds of people, these high achievers, professionals, etc., they want to confront problems. They want to overcome. They want to be on the edge. I feel like bringing up Dr. Jordan Peterson again, and his expression of this would be the border between chaos and order. And the optimal place to be is on that border, because to be all the way in order, there's no potential. Everything is settled. To be all the way in chaos, nothing can be built because there's no foundation. So the optimal place for us to be is on that border. So we have a foundation. We have a foundation on one side, but we also have potential on the other. And that whatever that place is, that has to do with our personality, where that place might be, whether we want more adventure or more stability, and whatever habits, whatever decisions we've made in life has landed us somewhere probably too far into the chaos, and we need to back off a little bit and figure out where find a little bit of stability and order. Or we are in too rigid. Maybe we're in too rigid a space, and we need room to breathe. So we're too far in order, and we're not on that border where there's still potential. Maybe there's there's anxiety or burnout because things feel are starting to become claustrophobic or whatever. However you want to interpret that. So a couple. Here are a couple things.
Yeah, because there is something that's called like the bored out also. So there's a burnout, but there's a bored out. So people are like lead it's a form of burnout, but out of being bored. Like
yes.
they are not challenged enough. And it creates also this sense of a void inside. Like it's
yes.
So you can push yourself too much or actually not enough. In both ways, you drain yourself out because you are not recharging. One is just draining you too much, the other one is not charging you enough. And so you're just like in this. And so yes, you're right.
That's really fascinating.
There is usually it's a different place of the high functioning anxiety. It's not the same type of profile, but some people are there and they're like they are just like they are going nowhere that is stimulating them, and it's like a little death, inside. Like you feel like where there is no excitement or
yes.
We need that. We need to grow. As human beings, we have a need for growth, and so it's important that we keep growing.
I kind of feel like that might be when I hear that, my mind goes to like a gifted kid in high school or something, and he's just bored. He's not lazy. He's just not being challenged. And that's I think I think is a good analogy for it, because I kind of feel like I was somewhat like that in high school. Like I didn't like the school, not because I found it difficult, but because I don't feel like it. I didn't feel like applying myself changed the outcome. Not applying myself or not applying myself, I would still get A's or B's. I'm like, it's not making me want to work harder. And if I had more of a challenge, now I did that. That wasn't my entire high school experience, but that was at least part of it. And I think that can also extend itself into the workplace, and into college and post college. Are when we get into our professional careers, if we're not in a career that has potential, and so the Peterson analogy, you're too far in order, you're not on the border of chaos anymore, or you're bored, you're bored out. You need more challenge, because otherwise it's just you're getting drained without output because you don't have any input. Yeah.
And I like this sense of purpose also, like, it's like, and it's very personal also, what makes somebody feel purposeful at what they do or brings meaning to what they do. And I've seen people who went from working actually the same number of hours, like in the same, but changing position and being now in a context that were not bringing them this sense of purpose, going in this high functioning anxiety now, when before they were just excited and challenged, and they had a lot of energy because they were getting so much purpose in what they were doing. Also, even with that, we still have to pay attention for our self-care. I want to say that, but it's a different energy than giving all these efforts and having to push yourself for something that is not purposeful to you. It can last a certain time, but there is a point where it becomes very hard on the person to be giving so much and actually not being fulfilled at a purpose level.
The definition, I don't know if it's the definition of boredom, but one of the definitions that I use is the desire or the need for novelty. And I watched the latest Pixar movie, the Inside Out 2, and there's the one emotion character called Ennui, and it's interesting because that emotion, it was feigned ennui that was portrayed in the movie, and that feigning was actually technically the emotion of pride presenting as boredom, the sarcasm. So that's a little bit off topic, but this emptiness, this almost existential emptiness, because there's no challenge, or because it's all just going to be the same. It's too rote. It's too mechanical. I need some change or potential. I need there to be something that can change. That's very much.
And that's a very useful emotion, actually, because it can lead us to creativity and to because we need sometimes to create this space with boredom, ennui, and I'm French, so I like ennui. Yeah. I like the word. I mean, it's a French word. So it's actually something that you were talking earlier about. We use our phones to fill any gap and get entertained. It doesn't give space for really this sense of just having nothing to do. There is always something. But we are depriving ourselves, because in this space of being bored, particularly as kids and teenagers, there is also some space. Now you have to be creative. Like, okay, I don't want to stay in. So what can I do now? What is, and I'm not talking about scrolling on Instagram now, it's something else. Like, I used to be very bored sometimes when I was a kid because I'm an only child, and there was no other kid my age in my neighborhood. From this boredom, I created a lot of stories in my mind and, plays and things I was doing to entertain myself, but it was very creative. And so there is, every emotion really is I don't like the word negative. I think they are all useful because we can use them to move them in a direction that is meaningful to us if we listen, and we pay attention.
Yes. Yeah. I'll say as well, the emotions, all of them are fundamentally good in the sense that good can come of them. Now, if we act only by our emotions, that becomes the vices. When we can take our emotions and act in accord with them, but not just allow ourselves to act by our emotions, that those are actually the virtues. So like the emotion of anger. Anger's not bad. Anger is a response to a perceived injustice. Anger is the emotional response to noticing something bad, and that's good, right? That can motivate us to the virtue of justice. Ennui can be the emotion that motivates us to productivity, to creativity, to something new, to positive novelty. Novelty for novelty's sake isn't necessarily a good thing, but it can be good. Novelty can be good, and to seek novelty also can be good. To allow that boredom to inspire new action, and it's a cue. It's a, hey, do something, like find something, and that's a really strong emotion, I think, in children. And when we forget to hone what that emotion is supposed to do in us, I think that's a real failure. Just the same way as anger, to teach little kids to not be angry is the wrong thing to do. To teach kids that you can do whatever you want if you're angry is also not the right thing to do. It's something in between. Why are you angry? Analyze what is wrong. You feel some injustice. Now, what do you do? All right. So the emotion inspires action,
Mm-hmm.
and that's incorporating the emotions is a really, it's one of the biggest developmental things in our
Mm-hmm.
persons, and I don't think we as Western society as a whole really do a good job of that, of noticing and incorporating the emotions
Mm-hmm.
well.
I agree with you. And there's something I notice in my work also, like with the people I work with, there is a lot of work on acknowledging emotions, because particularly with people who struggle with high functioning anxiety is an emotion that takes a lot of space, and it tends to actually become one of your main emotions, and it's disconnecting
Yes.
you from a lot of other of your emotions. So it's like relearning of, identifying other things and being able to move in other direction, and not having anxiety being the lead, in everything as a motive. So it's also, I talk a lot about emotion, and I agree with you. Like emotion it's part of our intelligence as human being, but it's one
Yes.
information, and when you add that with your rational, brain, and you have the information coming from your emotions, that's where you can really align, in your actions and your decision in ways that make sense, to you. So, but I agree at the same time, you cannot let the emotion lead entirely.
Yes.
It's an information that you can acknowledge as so,
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
is an information for you.
The emotions are really good indicators, but they aren't good leaders. The emotions, the emotions should prompt us to action, but they shouldn't lead our action. And there's the two extremes that we can play out in most Western society. I guess is the only kind of society that I know, but we have the two extremes. We have lead with let the emotions lead and ignore the emotions, and there's not as much the in between, the happy medium.
I hope your generation is going to lead the path to that. I feel I got no education on emotion at all as a kid. I learned really later in life, but so I hope the new generation will do a bit better.
Neither I didn't grow up with this different understanding, and that's definitely something that I want to change. So when I'm raising my three boys and hopefully more kids to come, I will be teaching them that their emotions are good. Good that you have that emotion, because you see something, because you feel something. Now what do? You have anger, all right, act justly. You have sadness, seek comfort, but don't let that comfort be you can seek comfort without making comfort your king. You can seek justice without making vengeance your king, right? You can seek novelty without making novelty your king if you're bored, right? To go back to boredom. Anxiety as well. That was like the chief emotion in the Pixar movie. Anxiety just absolutely took over, and like you were just saying, and it makes a lot of sense. There was like a panic attack scene in it, and one of my sisters-in-law who's experienced a lot of panic attacks was like, wow, that's exactly how it feels. So it was a really interesting movie, very very informative. I think it reveals a lot of inner workings, and there are a couple of criticisms, but
It's a simplified view,
yeah.
also. I mean, it's you have to take it for what it is. Like it's
Yeah.
at least it's opening the conversation, and it's bringing attention to the topic, because emotion, it's been one of my big topic of reading and like educating myself. I've read so many books on emotions from different, coming from psychology, neuroscience, and different views on it. And it's a fascinating topic that we are exploring more now from a science point of view. What I really like, I like things rooted in science too. I have a very rational part of me, so it's interesting to understand emotions are made even inside of us, and it's still a work in progress, and they are people don't really agree right now, like they're different, but it's very interesting to see this work going on. And I think it's going to give us a lot of, as human beings, on ourselves and better using that, because I think it's an important part of our being, of who we are as human beings. And we can be stronger if we are able to read better, understand better these emotions and what they tell us about ourselves and the situation we're in.
Yeah.
I think we're getting off topic, but I like our conversation.
It is a tangent, but I think it's a good one, because it reveals a lot of what you go through with your own clientele.
Mm-hmm.
So like all of this thinking about emotions, we need to be able to understand how they work and how they affect us, and what they're for. Like, I don't think anybody has ever thought of, why is it that I feel fear, anger, happiness? Why do those emotions exist? And they do have a function. The function is, in some ways, data, right? They reveal something about reality that your body perceives, right? There's, in some ways, signals from your body to your mind about your surroundings. So when you have fear, your body is telling you something is potentially amiss. There is likelihood for bad outcomes. There is possibility of pain, and that's what fear is telling you. And happiness tells you, whatever you're doing right now, that's what you should be doing. Or that is fulfilling a particular end. So like when we nourish ourselves, when we have good food, our bodies signal our minds saying, hey, that was good. Keep doing more of that.
Sometimes we should not listen, though, because it depends what we are eating. It's like sometimes we need to.
Yes.
It's interesting. It's like the control you can have also on creating, because we can create our own emotion. It's not only like reactive. It isn't power in. For example, I trained myself to be more. Joy was one of the things I wanted to experience more. To experience more joy, you need to be able to see what is bringing you joy and be present to it. And I am able to bring joy in, just like, my desk is, I'm facing, my garden. If I look outside and I see a bird, I experience joy, like, because I train myself to notice these little things, and they make me happy, like, and it's all these little things. We can train ourselves to recognize it also, and we can also train our brain out of fear, because sometimes we experience fear in situations that do not actually. It's not because we experience fear that there is a danger. It's like we perceive a danger where a lot of times there is no danger.
Right.
Like the fear of public speaking, like all these fears we have that are real. I mean, we experience them, but we can be able to redefine actually the danger in a way that we don't experience as much fear, or we don't experience fear at all, because we are now able to see that we are not in danger. or the danger is limited to something. And I really like all this, like, acknowledging what is happening, and at the same time it gives us, when we are more connected, sometimes it can help us to redesign that also in ways that are more aligned with the experience of life we need to have.
So we can design the feedback loops. To use a fairly engineering type terminology. We can design the feedback loops that fuel the positive outcomes we want. So if you want to experience more joy, you do things that will result in more joyful scenarios, and you make yourselves more sensitive to the things that cause you joy. If you want to overcome fear, you face the things that are causing you fear, until the fear from those things dissipates, or you just actually overcome those things. So that either the issue that needs facing is resolved, or the fear you experience because of the thing resolves, even though the thing might still persist. The fear you experience of it, like stage fright, you're not going to overcome having getting onto stage. That would be like just avoiding it. There are some things that will repeat, but once you've been on stage a few times, well, your stage fright, you can encounter the stage without the fright.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a lot of practice in the, all the work. It's practice, and it's putting yourself there, and a lot of experimentation. That's a lot of the work in coaching, is like creating this safe space where people can experiment, go share the feedback, the learning, and learn from that.
Yes. Yeah, and then make the conscious decisions on the revision cycle of the design of the way you put your life together. Yeah, you get put back into the driver's seat of your life, and you instead of letting it go on autopilot, which is a lot of our tendencies.
And it's a natural way of the brain is working this way for some reason. Like we have we would be totally like overwhelmed if we had to make decision all the time on everything coming our way. So we need this level of, we need a level of automation. It's just like being conscious of what are the things that we have automated that are actually leading us really in a direction that is not serving us at all. Like, so important. I wish I had been thinking about that earlier in my life. That's why, I'm trying to help people now, because I'm like, it just takes like something that clicks inside of you, and suddenly you change path. Like it doesn't mean that it's not like you are changing from one day to another, but the moment it clicks and you start taking a different action, you are just putting yourself in a different direction.
Yes. Yeah. One little small change at a time results in something completely different. Yeah. Yeah. So let's get back to talking to your ideal client. So there seems to be three major things. There's overcoming anxiety, there's breaking the cycle of burnout, and there's living life aligned with your true values. Would you add anything to those three?
I would add like a
yeah.
I would add a lot of things, but we have some things there, I guess. Like it's hard for me, all this idea of having a niche, of having it was very difficult. I can work with a lot of different people in a lot of different contexts. I think what is really driving my coaching is creating this space where people can be honest with themselves and looking at the path that is really the path they want to be on. And that's a difficult conversation. But so I decided to really focus on people with high functioning anxiety, because that's a path I've been on. And I know it's really helping people when they are there to see someone who has been there and who is out of it, because I understand, what they've been through. And I also am the proof that you can get out of it. So I think that's where I can add bring the most value to people.
Yeah.
As a coach, I'm a trained coach, and I'm educating myself. So of course, I bring all these tools. It's not only my personal story, but in all of that, I think that's what is creating the connection also. Like people feel seen and heard.
Yeah. So I have a couple things written. Overcome anxiety, break the cycle of burnout, and live a life aligned with your true values. Making good and lasting change starts with being honest with yourself. And that starts with a safe place to do that exploration. Overcome anxiety, break the cycle of burnout, and live a life aligned with your true values. Making good and lasting change starts with being honest with yourself. And that starts with a safe place to do that exploration. And that's what you provide, that safe place to do that exploration. There's an element of play. There's an element of adventure and curiosity. That there's the as ICF coaches, we have the fundamental value of being curious in some ways on behalf of our client, right? And sometimes they are not very curious. Well, we can be curious for them, and we can help them like take the first couple steps, and then they're like, oh, I wonder, and then they're off. And then in some ways, and then we've done our job. They are going to explore and they're going to think, and then we can help them kind of sift through they can do the mining in the gold mine, and then we can help them sift through the dirt and find the golden nuggets.
I like that.
How would you say your ideal client would hear that? What sort of emotions might they experience?
I don't know. I've always had an issue with the ideal client concept myself, but I think the message is like, I like this idea of providing this, because it's really what I think I'm providing, like this space where people can explore, and it's like, I don't know, there is a connection there, like the curiosity, the self-compassion, the not judgment, and it's so rare to have a space for yourself where you can just be without, wondering too much what the other person is thinking about you, because it's not about that. It's about you, me, and really, and I think people can see it, like it's all about them. Like me, I'm really curious in a compassionate way about being there to support them. So, and I like the idea of making lasting changes, of course, because that's the point. Is like, it's not like just putting like a little bandage, on a scar. My desire is to help my clients go deeper and create real change. Change that is leading us in a new direction. And so the alignment with the true self, true values, whatever, authentic self, and breaking this cycle of the high functioning anxiety is also resonating. So overall, I think it's a good. I don't know at all. I don't think that's what my website is totally reflecting, but I will have to see how I can address that.
Yeah. So let's think about as well what else a potential client of yours needs to hear. So this is in some ways telling the why behind your service, right? Your client wants to avoid or recover from burnout, right? So break the cycle of burnout. Either don't burn out this time, or I've burnt out. How do I get out of this? How do I dig myself out of this emotional pit I've allowed myself to fall into, right? And I think a lot of people might not know what burnout really means. So maybe that could be something we address. What does it look like? It's a loss of enthusiasm and fulfillment in work, and in some ways a dread of work. So it's you've used up your emotions. They are exhausted. They are no more. So to figure out ways to fill back up, and that could be the emotional drain. Could be another thing that the client will relate to. So emotional fill. How do you say that to fill oneself emotionally?
It is like the first step back. When you are close to burnout, you are there, you have passed the stage. Like, is the only thing you can do at one point is like you have to stop. So there is a need to reset, and there is a need for self-care, and it actually starts with the body. Like, it starts with taking care of yourself, but it's certainly not a mental work to start with. It's really more work of acknowledging that you drain your energy out and that you need to refill. So there is a need for rest, there is a need for movement, there is a need for healthy food. It really starts with you have drained. It's like you've drained out your nervous system, so you really need to recover from that. And so there is a first. If people are really close to this stage, like just close to it, like it's there is a need to refill now. Because it's mean you've drained yourself out. And so if you are drained, you need to recharge. And so there's an acknowledgement that there is a break that is needed. What is the hard part a lot of time for people for many reasons? One being financial, of course. And it's how do you find, how can you create a new way of, if you still have to go to work. It's like, how can you change, the rules so you can, because if you don't, it's just like I have clients that have been through 2, 3, 4 burnouts. And so it's not easy to, it's just like we need to, it's a question of priorities. And it's like, if you don't have your health, you have nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Health is like our health is like, it's, when you don't, I know because my mom has a long illness, and when you don't have your health, you can have the will you want, you can have it's not about that anymore. It's like you are unable to do things. So whatever you can do to protect your health, we should at least do this a bit above the minimum to keep ourselves. I don't say that all actions have to be related to that, and it's putting your priorities in order. And I think for people is realizing where they are heading if they keep going.
Yeah.
And it will affect their kids, their families, the people they work with. And it's not an easy, but health is really, so I'm not a doctor, so I don't use this word too much either, but it's what it is. It's like we have to preserve that. And it's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. It all works together.
Yeah.
Spirituality is can be a big support also. Like studies show, like neuroscience studies show that people with faith are more resilient than people who don't have a strong spiritual. They're more resilient to stress, to struggles, to.
Yeah, and it isn't just a crutch either, but definitely there are definite real physiological, psychological benefits to having a spiritual health as well. Emotional, physical, psychological, and spiritual. We are all one being, and one of our aspects will always impact the others.
And so that's where it's like I try to have this holistic approach. I'm not a spiritual guide, but I just invite people to reflect on that also as part of their own path, towards their fulfillment and well-being.
Yeah. Let's. One of the things that I'm thinking about in writing here is expressing how you come alongside them. So they are on a journey in life, and your desire is to come alongside their life to help them navigate. You're going to act as a compass to tell them where north is. You're not telling them which direction to go, but with that information, they get to choose where to go. Once they have, once you know where north is, if you want to go east, you can go there. But until you know where north is, it's really hard to know that you're going east.
It's a good. I believe in the power of choice. Like responsibility is one of my key values personally. So that's something that goes in my coaching for sure, to help people make choices that are informed choices.
Yeah, I actually really like this that you wrote on your site already. You have, I've charted a path to healing and fulfillment, and it's my mission and my passion to help you find yours. That's actually exactly what we are talking about right here. And you're not telling them what to do. You're saying, hey, I found my path. I know how to make paths. Can I help you make yours? Yeah.
And I think what is interesting is like there is a framework. So we know we're going to have to address some things, but in this framework, each people are going to have a different path, like way of finding what's working for them. And I think that's what separates certainly a coach from another type of support you can get. Is like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to invite you to reflect in this area of your life and what actually looks like to you. Even if you think as simple as physical activity, or having being active with your body, it's an important part of your health in general and your mental health in particular. So like it's I'm not going to tell people go and do this or that. No, it's just like what actually brings you joy, what is motivating to you, what gives you a sense of accomplishment. Find this thing you like, your thing, not what everybody say you should do, but this thing that is the things that is going to, make you want to, do this activity. And it doesn't look the same for all of us, but no. And is this something works for everything else? You can eat healthy in many different ways. There is not one way. There is never one way. There is many ways. And it's just finding yours and experimenting. It's fun. I try to say that also to people, like it's fun to experiment. You get to try.
Yeah. Experiment. There's a childlike exploration. There's a curiosity and a desire to know that is sometimes squashed in our adulthood, and I think it's because things have been settled and or that they feel like they are settled, and new doesn't seem possible. So the desire for it has begun to dwindle. But once you know something else is possible, then your desire for it is rekindled, and that's in some ways your job, is to kind of reignite the desire for new, desire for a change, and then once they are like, oh wait, I'm able to have a joyful professional life. It's not just a slog. It's not just drudgery. Sure, I'd like that. That sounds fun. How do I do that? And then the conversation starts, and they can start moving forward. Yeah. Overcome anxiety, break the cycle of burnout, and live a life aligned with your true values. Making good and lasting change starts with being honest with yourself, and that starts with a safe place to do that exploration. I've charted a path to healing and fulfillment, and it's my mission and my passion to help you find yours. Let's see, where do we go with that? I feel like here you will need something to say what you will do. So you are going to help them find their path to healing and fulfillment, which is very well encompassing of the end goal of what you do. But we can say as well what you do. I have a section of a site I built for myself for sharing what coaching is and does. I'll just read it to you so that we can have a basis for our conversation. Coaching is assistance in the rational process. Simply put, I help you slow down, think more clearly, make your own conscious decisions, and stick to them over the long term so that you achieve your goals. I offer a second perspective and ask you questions that, when answered, bring the clarity you need to move forward. It's not counseling or consulting, spiritual direction or discipleship, just being a good friend. It's something in between. I won't tell you what to do or think, but help you with your own thought process. So what are your thoughts on how you want to say what coaching is to your clientele?
I have mixed feelings about talking about what coaching is actually on my because I'm not sure people are really interested in knowing what coaching is.
That is true.
So I would like to tell them more where, they are going, what they can expect, and tell them. I have a section on my website. I have my own, like, if they want to go deeper, like I have a full page of, what coaching is, my philosophy, and I share all the ICF, what I believe in, because that's my training, and I chose it because so if they want to go deeper, I have a long section that they can look into if they want to. I don't think that's the thing I want to talk first. I say that I'm a coach to start. And I think what they hear more is not like coach, is like well-being and mental fitness. So that's the word I chose to define what my coaching is about. What actually maybe question also, it's just like that after trying different things, I ended up with that. So I have a section about that. I'm not sure I want to put that on my homepage.
Okay.
I noticed like it's so long. Actually, it's a long conversation for people. People have to experience it, I think, to really see what it is.
That is true. That is true. And I guess there is that what I just shared is an in between between basically just saying what will result from it and like quoting the ICF on the definition of coaching. I have clients sometimes that will copy paste the definition of coaching. It's like, here's what it is. It's like that doesn't belong on a homepage because the people who need it aren't going to care what it is. It's sort of like a plumber trying to sell his service, explaining to you the tools that he is going to use in order to fix your house. No, I just need you to tell me you're going to fix my house.
What I tried, and I would like to have your insight on that. Like on this, when I redid the website, like I'm on my on this homepage, because I'm talking about high functioning anxiety, I try to re-explain, so people see it resonating with them through, giving examples of what it looks like in your life. But I don't know neither if that's something that will get people attention. Because like, is it who you are? I can help, I'm here to help you if you feel like that's what it resonates with you when you're going through that. Also.
Yeah, we don't need a technical definition of what you'll do in any way, definitely. But I think a little bit of I want to know that in some ways the goal is to get them into a state of curiosity about you so that they are like, okay, I want to know more. And either then they can go read more and hopefully that leads them to the contact me, or I want to contact you right away because I don't really care about the technical details about the service. I just want to talk to you about them. So your goal in the page is to get the visitor to a point of I want to have a conversation with Gaelle. And what is the next step after? So it's my mission and my passion to help you find yours, a path to healing and fulfillment. What's the next step between that and I'm ready to contact?
So my message and I've been communicating on that, is like to like this idea of saying no, like, and that's what I have the second part of my, if you look at the website and you go down, the idea of this next section was now the time is now, like, like you feel like you need to say no to anxiety. Like at one point you have to say, I no more, like I don't want that in my life anymore. And you can, you cannot, if it resonates or not with you, like something I often say is like, you deserve better. Like we all deserve, to have the best possible experience of our life. And a lot of people, you would be surprised, or it resonates with them when you I tell them that you deserve better. Like me, when I was saying that to myself, it would make me, I would cry. Like it was like, so like just allowing myself to think that I could deserve better was already like and I try to pass this message so people embrace it. Like they deserve, really what I believe, they deserve better than this dreadful experience of life where maybe you accomplish, you have results, you have success. I mean, I've always been successful in my career, but it costs you so much inside Like, and the problem is, like, most people feel a lot of guilt about their anxiety. They feel guilty to feel this way. Like, they feel you should feel differently. You should be stronger. You should be better. Like, it's not with this type of, if you go this direction, there is no possible change. You are just blaming yourself. It's like you are not good enough. That's what you're repeating yourself all the time. And so you don't help yourself to go better. It has to start, like, by you deserve better. Of course, we all deserve better than living life with this, like, sense of, oh, something like terrible is going to happen all the time. You doubt yourself. You're just like, it makes sometimes very good employees, because people who go over and beyond, to like it's the problem is that, like, there is a reward in some ways. It just, like, you can get better results with a totally different perspective, and that's where my role is to show people that there is another way. Like, you don't have to choose between happiness and success. You can have both. Like, your stress is not creating your success. You would be even more successful if you were working from a place of not being dreading, what's coming along, but feeling exciting and challenged. I mean, I don't say you should not have a certain level of fear, with what you're doing, but it can come from a very different place. And so that's why I'm just looking at and I'm trying to see what could be more conductive than.
Yeah, you don't have to choose between happiness and success. The third option is both, and a better way than either.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, you will. There might be success without happiness, but that success is going to actually likely be lesser than if you than that third way. If you choose success over happiness, you will very likely not get either, or not get either in great effect.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to choose between happiness and success.
This is a core message of positive intelligence.
Yeah.
And that's, clearly the philosophy that is leading, my way of coaching and the work I do with my clients.
Yeah. I'm thinking about what comes after that. You don't have to choose between happiness and success. The reason, choosing success over happiness isn't really choosing success. It's actually not choosing happiness. It's choosing not happiness, thinking that it's success. It's a smokescreen, or it's an imposter, or it's a fake choice. And it's sort of like maybe like a trick question. You choose the thing that people think that happiness is on the other side of success. Happiness is a route of success.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Happiness is not on the other side of success, but a route to it. And that's the third way. The people think happiness to my left, success to my right. I think that going to my left and pursuing happiness is going to result in a very temporary happiness. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go to my right, and hopefully I get happiness on the other side of that. Instead, you need to go a third direction, and that third direction is not it seems to be a repeat theme. It's not the extremes of one or the other. It's kind of that happy balance between the two that actually results in greater of the two that the two desires.
And this belief I have personally is like we achieve more success in a way, like, I'm not talking about success defined by society. I mean, just success to you when you follow a path that is actually bringing you joy and purpose. Like it's where and so on this
true
path, of course, you also experience more happiness. But this sense of success is also gonna be meaningful to you. So it's it's not success defined by what society says success is, or your family, or whatever. It's like reconnecting to what success means to you, actually. And that's where both become the same, or work together at least, because of course there is a part of happiness is not a constant state. So it's not saying that we are just going to live a life of being elated, and no, but there will be more of it, and it will be a path that is leading to experience more of that, and there will be moment of stress, and life is life, and life happens. But when you are on a path where that is your path, when life happens and struggles happen, you are much more resilient. Like there's because you are on a path that is meaningful to you. So people who have a purpose, who have a purposeful life, they don't stop, when things, they have something, a vision that is helping them to, step and walk and bounce forward. They are not falling, and you may fall, but you will bounce forward.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how to pass that on that's why, I mean, I would love to, you see, that's what I'm doing. I'm taking all your time, and I can talk about things like it's very hard for me to be concise on the website. Because it's simple, and at the same time it requires a little bit of
well, it's a and not all simple things can be stated simply. In fact, the most simple things, I think, require the most explanation. Like, why do we feel happiness? Well, that's there's a lot to talk about when it comes to what is happiness and why we experience it. In some ways, I can state it simply by saying joy is the fulfillment of identity. And now, in order to understand what that means, there's another large conversation. It's like, okay, so what is identity, and how do you fulfill it? It kind of compounds, and so much is said in so few words that in order to understand those few words, many more have to be said.
And that's how I feel usually. And I have a very curious mind, so one thing is leading me to another thing, and but I love our conversation. I have to step out pretty soon.
Okay.
I took a lot of your time today, Jens, and I appreciate we are moving. It's giving me a lot of leading me in a direction of thinking my message, a bit different.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, I was going to ask, what have you found useful in our conversation?
To start with talking about, what I do, it's giving me a chance to see if it's clear, like, if you got, so I have a question for you. It's like, through our conversation, do you feel you understand better what my coaching is about?
Yeah, I think so. I think there are a couple things. I mean, we've had conversation in the past, so I'm already fairly familiar with you, but I think definitely there's development to my understanding of you and your business.
Okay. And so then it would be like, if there was like a couple, what I think when we started, like the way you started, like reframing, was like really getting to this, what it is that I'm doing, and I think it was giving us a good start. That it's like always like, oh, do you keep going with that to lead people to be interested and want to take because it's about taking the next step, because there is nothing happening we need this conversation. I need to be able to talk to this person, and
Yes.
they can feel if I'm a good match for them. Is they feel seen, and it's how do you get the person to book this because that's all the point actually of this homepage, is getting someone at least to start their reflection, reflecting maybe on something and wondering, do I need help with that? So there is that, and then it's like, how do you get them to decide that they're gonna book this call? Because, I want to help the people that can, I know I can help people. So I would like these people to feel compelled to at least take these 30 minutes to have a conversation about it and see if they want to move forward with it, and if there is a next step.
Yes. Yeah. That next step of always make somebody curious for the next thing you're going to say to them. And eventually it'll come to, you want more information, you want a conversation, let's chat. And people will be like, yes, I want to talk to this person because they seem to already know me, right? That's kind of the goal, is everything you say on a homepage leads to the next thing, and eventually it'll be to that call to action. Reach out to me. It's like, if this is you have to reach out to me. I'm like, what are you doing if you're not reaching out to me? Make it abundantly clear to them emotionally that I should reach out to Gaelle. That's the idea. What are your takeaways from our conversation today?
Each time I talk about, it's like I get put back reflecting on my ideal client, which is like my, putting myself. So when you were asking me the question, I realized that I was thinking about my clients. I was also thinking about my own, experience, and I was like, it was both, both were coming along. The thing is, like, this ideal client, I don't know, clients are also different, and I have clients, because my clients they are men and women. Some are in their late 20s, some are in their late 50s. I have people with they are in a very different, stage of their life. So it's always like this idea of I'm not really like trying to, and it's me, like I don't want to restrict myself on a like super limited type of person.
Right.
You can be experiencing these symptoms of high functioning. I was already experiencing that when I was 25 years old, so, but you can also, it can come later in your life, because maybe in your 20s and 30s, you have, a fulfilling work, or you have, and suddenly, something happened. And so it's not like it's written what age you have or what type of job. I have people in very different type of professional life also. So it doesn't, something that can, it's particular, but at the same time, it's pretty broad. And unfortunately, more and more people are experiencing anxiety. And a lot of people actually don't realize they are experiencing anxiety before talking with someone like me, because they don't even put the right word on it. Like, it becomes just their way of being. It's their new normal, if you want, what is terrible. Because I don't want people to leave from this place. We really all deserve better. So it's well, like the ideal, like it's always a difficult conversation, but at the same time, I understand they have to read and hear certain things that resonate with their own, what they are experiencing. And I think that transcend, age, industry, gender.
So what you're expressing is that your ideal client is not a demographic. It's not age. It's not sex. It's not even a particular kind of career or anything like that. It is anyone who has some level of anxiety, especially high levels of anxiety, but they're still functioning. They're on their way to burnout. This is describing a person, not by how they appear, where they live, but what they're experiencing. And that is your ideal client. A lot of people, I think, when they hear ideal client, think of demographics, and that's like only a tiny slice of what ideal clients really are.
Yeah, and in this case, I get it's true, like it really is this experience of what they are experiencing in their life. That is what is leading in. So it's how to convey that, and I also know that that's a place where it's hard to make decision and to reach out, and so I've been there. So I know there is a lot of that's the way it is, and it's not going to change, and people feel, and so it's like, how do you break that? If you have any ideas, James, we can discuss it later.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to have this conversation with me.
Thank you so much. I so much appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And bringing me clarity also on what I should focus on, and I will reach out privately and see, if there is some work we can keep.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that would be really fun. Yeah. This was a really fun conversation. We had a few tangents, and I thought they were very interesting, especially the psychology and emotion, and what emotions are, why we have them.
I loved our conversation, so thank you very much. I think two coaches coming together with interest in human beings and human nature, and it leads, of course, to this kind of we share interests. So
yes, we do.
So thank you very much for this time. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, and it will give me food for my brain and what I'm doing right now with this website.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, you have a wonderful rest of your evening.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye.